From The Selfish Path to Romance, download Chapter 1 for free at drkenner.com.
Those were awful, those family driving vacations. Dad insisting on covering as many miles as possible in a day. The two of us, tiny hostages in the back seat, straining to see something out the window as the landscape whizzed by. I was 13 before I realized cows aren't blurry.
And that's Niles from Frasier, obviously. And I recently went on a slightly more sophisticated family vacation with my parents and my aunt and my uncle. And we went to the Black Sea. It was to Bulgaria, Romania, Yalta, Turkey, very odd ports in Turkey. And I want to talk about some of that coming up, but I want to start by telling you about Yalta. We visited Yalta, and Yalta is in the Crimea on the Black Sea, a very tropical, warmer climate, not so much tropical, but very, very, it's got many spas there, which they call sanatoriums, but spas because the climate's so gorgeous. There are lush covered mountains, and there are castles and palaces and very exquisite romantic settings. In fact, we visited one of the top 10 parks in the world. But even more spectacular than this gorgeous setting was our tour guide. He was 49 years old, and he had lived under the communists, and he hated them. He said that when the communists were openly in power, he had a job working as a nightclub singer and entertainer. And the communists told him where he was going to sing. He had to fly to all these isolated places in Siberia on Russian airplanes, the Aeroflot. And he said one had to land very suddenly because the wing was cracking off. They were seconds away from dying. Another one almost went up in flames. And he goes, since that time, he refuses to ever get on another plane in his life. And that's an understandable airplane phobia. He also said that the KGB tried to force him to snitch, and he defiantly refused. Talk about courage. He was then called into the KGB office twice for interrogation, and he showed us these green lamps, and you may have seen them in very nice libraries. You see a kind of gold lamp with a green shade on it, glass shade, and it looks very elegant. It looks cozy. It looks like you'd find them in romantic settings. He said in the communist countries, those green lamps signify the KGB, because the KGB would interrogate you in the dark of night with just that lamp lit on their desk. And these were all, of course, intimidation tactics. And he told us, even more frighteningly, that the KGB is still in power in Russia, that Putin didn't punish them or discharge them from their positions. Of course, Putin was with the KGB, and Putin makes it look like Russia is democratic. And they want the gullible West to think this. But our guide strongly said, I wish we'd cut off all ties with Putin, including trade and even sporting events, to send Putin the clear message that the West will not appease nor tolerate the continuing corruption and human rights violations that are going on right under our noses. And our guide said that although censorship is lessened, the West is not listening. We want to hear what we want to hear. He also said he's disgusted with the Russian mafia, which is still running the spas in Yalta. So he's showing us these spas and saying, but it's full of corruption. So meeting this tour guide was one of the high points of my vacation, because he takes ideas seriously and he has courage and integrity. And notice that he's grasped the idea that appeasement does not work. Trying to make deals with the devil only emboldens the devil. The West appeasing Putin will only help Putin gain more power. And that's true in personal situations too. Flash back over your own life. If you appease an abusive spouse or an abusive parent, you are giving your spouse or that parent more power and control over you. And it takes courage and integrity to speak your mind clearly and assertively. And that's what we talk about on my show. I'm Dr. Ellen Kenner. My show's The Rational Basis of Happiness. And I'm a clinical psychologist. That means that you can pick up the phone right now and call me with any question that's been keeping you awake at night. My number's toll-free, 1-877-DRKENNER. That's toll-free, 1-877-Dr. Kenner, DRKENNER. And my website is drkenner.com, drkenner.com. Now, I've got other stories from my vacation that I may share with you if we have time. Okay, the unusual story is that we also visited Marmaris, Turkey, and my husband and I went to a Turkish bath. Think about taking a bath with 30 strangers, many of them geriatric. I don't think I will ever forget this experience, and lots more coming up. And of course, your calls take priority, so we may not have time for all of it. A woman whose husband has been somewhat romantic he was romantic when they first met and first married, but then he joined the military, and she says now he hasn't one romantic bone in his body. She says the marriage is just hello, goodbye, and she wants some help. And a guy who this is a young kid, in the heat of passion on movie dates, he desperately wants to go steady with these girlfriends that he dates that he thinks are just fantastic. And in the heat of passion, he'll ask them, will you go steady with me? And, of course, he gets the brush off. Now, in one such situation, they're in a movie theater. He's on a date, and the girl's probably very engrossed with the movie, and he looks at her and pops the question, do you want to go steady? And she goes, shut up. So I don't know whether she was just turned off by him. I mean, it's the wrong place, the wrong time. So he wants some help on how do you pop the question? How do you know when it's the right time to ask someone to go steady with you? And do you have anyone you know who drinks a few drinks every night? And this person may not think they have a drinking problem. It may be yourself. You may have some queasiness inside, and you may have that passing thought, maybe this is too much. But deep down, you feel depressed, or you're snapping at your kids more, or you hear your friends worried about your drinking. Later in the show, author Ann Fletcher and I will be talking about the warning signs of alcoholism and how to fight it. For example, one warning sign is, did you ever just say to yourself, I don't think I'll take my medication now because I just need a nightcap, I just need a drink. And you take the drink first. We'll talk about other warning signs too. Again, I'm Dr. Ellen Kenner. My show's The Rational Basis of Happiness, and even though it's not therapy, gives you an opportunity to call in with any questions that you would like some advice for. It's free advice. The number is toll-free, 1-877-DRKENNER. That's toll-free, 1-877 Dr. Kenner. And coming up, we've got a question from a woman who likes two men. She's engaged to one, and she doesn't know how to deal with this. So I will take her call coming up. And a little later, we have another woman whose husband wants to force her to have sex with other men. And she's at wit's end. She doesn't want to do this, and yet she feels the pressure is on. This is what he wants in the marriage, and how does she cope with that? Again, I'm Dr. Ellen Kenner, toll-free, 1-877-DRKENNER on the rational basis of happiness.
Here's an excerpt from The Selfish Path to Romance, the Serious Romance Guidebook by clinical psychologist Dr. Ellen Kenner and co-author Dr. Edwin Locke.
Telling your partner why you love them is especially important as you are falling in love and around the time of the marriage proposal. But don't stop there. Partners want to know what qualities their loved one values in them, to know if they are the same qualities they value in themselves. For example, if you tell a woman you fell in love with her because she's cute and that's it, nothing else, she probably isn't going to feel flattered. A woman of substance surely wants to hear something profound about why she is loved. Something specific about her character, her mind, her values, and her way of approaching her career in life. This principle applies to both partners.
You can download Chapter 1 for free by going to drkenner.com. And you can buy The Selfish Path to Romance at Amazon.com.